Okay, this video is the first in a series of several calculator skills. This one is going to be about how to graph equations and set a window. So I'm using this page of notes, which you may or may not have, but it doesn't matter if you have these notes or not, you can follow along. So first of all, I'm going to pull up my calculator. I'll put it down here. Notice number one, after turning on the calculator, you're going to press Y equals. So you may notice up here at the top of the, let me move this down right here. Up here at the top of the calculator, you'll see a Y equals. So whenever you get ready to graph, you're going to press the Y equals. And before we start typing in an equation, there's a couple things that you should know. First of all, look at letter A. Use this key to enter the variable x. As you realize, most equations have x's in them, so it might be like y equals x squared plus 2x or something like that. But the easiest way to type in an x is to use this key right here. It says x comma t comma theta. When you press that, you'll get the variable x. A couple other things. Make sure you notice that when you're typing in an equation, you need to decide, did you want to use a minus sign, which is right here, or right here, or did you want to use the negative sign, which is down here? Okay, so let's go ahead and type in an equation. So I'm going to pull my calculator up here, and let's say we want to type in this equation, negative x cubed, and so on. So I'm going to start by pressing Y equals. Remember, the Y equals is up under the graph, Y equals. And then if there's anything in here, you can always just clear it out. But I just always start with y1. And so I'm going to type in negative x cubed. Since that negative's out in front, it's a negative sign and not a minus. So negative x, and then exponents, you use the little caret key. So to the third, negative x to the third. You always have to make sure, notice how my cursor is up in the exponent. So if you press the right arrow, the cursor will move out of the exponent. So you always got to make sure you move out of the exponent. Then I want minus 3x squared. This time it's a minus sign, 3. I'm going to type x. And for squared, you can do the little caret thing if you want, or a lot of times I like to use just over here on the far left, there's an x squared button. Cursor is out of the exponent. Plus 2x, and then minus 5. Okay, so I've got my equation in. And if you look at number 4, it says your graph should appear. So if I press graph right now, it's going to appear in just whatever random window you might have already used in the past. However, it says press zoom and then choose number 6, which is standard. This is always going to be our first choice for a window. So my suggestion is, as soon as you get ready to graph, you just, instead of pressing graph, you automatically press zoom and then go down and choose number 6. This is just a nice, neat standard window. It gives you a nice even x's and y's and makes the graph look decent. Okay. So look at what number 5 says. It says this is not a great window because you cannot tell what's going on at the bottom of the graph. There's obviously, let me kind of draw a little thing here. There's obviously something going on down here that we can't see because it's off the bottom of the graph. So number 6 says, if we want to set a window, like if I want to change the x's and y's, then what I can do is press the key that says window. So the key that says window is right up here underneath the graph. It says window. Well, remember, oops, I didn't press window. I pressed zoom. Sorry about that. So whatever numbers pop up are the ones that were there from your previous graphing. But what we can do is I can adjust the x's and the y's. So for example, let me move this over here. When I look at this window that's here, it very much looks like there's something more down here at the bottom that we want to look at. So what that tells me is I need to move the window. Let me move that. I need to move the window down a little bit. That means I want my y's to start further in the negative direction. So maybe for my window, let's see, here's where I was. Right now I'm at negative 10. Maybe for my y's, I want them to go down to, like, say, negative 20. So if I press window, I'll leave the x min and the x max. That SCL is the scale. That means how often you're going to put little tick marks. And for the y min, remember I wanted it to go down lower, so maybe I'll type -20. And I don't need it to go any higher, so I'll leave the y max. Now when I press graph, I can see a lot more of that graph. Another option might be, maybe I don't need to see all the extra on the sides, so maybe I, whoops, see if I can get this to come up here. Maybe I try to narrow it in on the left and the right a little bit. So if I press window, maybe for the x min and max, I don't need -10 and 10. Maybe I want, let's try, how about -7 and +7. And by the way, those numbers don't always have to be the same. You know, one positive, one negative. I don't know. I tend to do that a lot, but it doesn't really matter. So let's see what that looks like. So all that did was just kind of bring in the sides a little bit. All right, so go down to number 7. It says, how can you change the window to make it even better? Well, notice, compare the one that I had, there we go, to the one that's shown here. I mean, they're both really good windows. The one that's on the paper just kind of makes it look, you know, a little bit bigger in the window. So you can tell what they did was there's not as much over here on the right side. There's not as much extra, whereas on this one, the graph kind of covers the whole thing. And so again, if I wanted to, maybe I press window and maybe I come in even further. Maybe the x min is -6 and maybe the x max, I mean, it looks to me like it only goes out to like 3 or so here. So why don't we put like maybe 4 for the x max and see what that'll do is, again, it just kind of makes it look stretched out in the part that you're looking at. Okay. So let's try a new equation. Let's put this one in. So I'm going to put in y equals, so in order to do that, I'm just going to clear out what's there. I'm going to put in 2/5 x squared, where you know fractions are alpha y equals. So you choose number 1. So I'll put in 2/5. And then make sure you move the cursor off to the side. Then I want x squared minus 4x and then -7. If I hit graph right now, it's going to go back to the window I was just on. But remember what we said? We should always start with zoom 6. Just kind of gives us, it kind of centers everything up. Now when I look at this, it looks to me like there's more down below that I need, and it also looks to me like there's more to the right that I need. So I'm going to go to window. So for my x min, that's to the left. Do I need more to the left? No. What about my x max? Well, that's going to be to the right. Do I need more to the right? Yeah, maybe instead of 10, we try 15. For the scale, you know, if you want, you can just put 0 for the scale, so you don't have to see a bunch of little tick marks on your axis, but it doesn't matter. And then remember we said the y min, we want it to go lower, so maybe for my y min, maybe I have it be -15. A lot of times students will over-exaggerate, and they'll say, oh, I don't want to have to do it, you know, several times. I'm just going to go straight down to -100. Well, that's not good either, because then you have this really tiny little graph on this giant window. That doesn't look good either. So just do a little at a time. I mean, there's no perfect science to it. So let's try graph. And it looks like I still need a little bit more on the lower end, right? The left and right look fine to me, but for my window, I'm going to go to the y min because that's the lower side. So maybe instead of -15, maybe I try -20. Hit graph. And that's pretty good. I've got a nice, neat shaped graph. It's kind of right in the middle of the window, and that would be a good window for it. So notice what the directions over here say. Go down to number 10. Go to window, find the appropriate window. We just did that. Shows all the parabolas centered on the window. We just did that. And then it says fill in the blanks below with the settings that you have chosen. So what that means, what I'm looking for is if you press window, I'm asking, hey, what did you put in for x min? And so for x min, you would write -10. Or what did you put in for x max? And so for x max, you would write 15. And what did you put in for y min? And you would put your -20. And what did you put in for y max? And you would put your 10. So we went -10 to 15. Whoops. Gotta get rid of those, sorry. We went -10 to 15. And then remember for the y's, we went -20 to 10. -20 to 10. Okay, so let's just do one more just to show you, make sure we've got it. So this time I'm going to put in my new equation, clear that out. I've got 4x to the 5th 4x to the 5th, move the cursor out of the exponent, minus x to the 4th, move the cursor out of the exponent, minus x to the 3rd. Always make sure you move the cursor out of the exponent, minus x squared plus 7. Okay, so we always start with zoom 6. And when I look at this, it might be that I see most of what's going on, but I see this tiny, skinny little graph right in the middle. So one thing I definitely want to do is I want to bring in the left and the right side. So that means I'm going to bring in the x min and the x max. So let's start with that. So I'm going to press window. Maybe instead of -10, I'll try -4. And maybe instead of +10, I'll try +4. And let's just see what that does for me. Okay, that brings it in. It's not quite as skinny now, but I still need to move it up a little bit, right? So I need my y max to be higher. So how about we make our y max be, I don't know, how about 18? See what that looks like. Okay, graph. And that's not bad at all. I mean, I know it's the same shape as what we had before, but it's not this tiny little skinny graph in the middle, and you can't really see what's going on. And so the question here is saying what's the x min and x max and y min and y max. So if I press window, my min and max for x were -4 and 4. So -4 to 4. And remember for the y's we had -10 to 18. -10 to 18. Okay, so that's just a little bit about how to set a window.